let's go all the way down to Melbourne in
Oh.
Australia to talk to Aaron or Aaron, who wants to talk about what is it? This is what it says. What is it that actually converts people to atheism? That's an interesting question. Aaron, Aaron, how's it going?
Good, Lloyd and Kenneth. How are you both?
Good. What can we do for you?
We're having a discussion actually in the ACD earlier this evening or this morning, depending on your timestamp, about what is it that actually changes a person's viewpoint. It was pretty broad, but we were specifically talking about beliefs, and I myself was a Christian for a very large portion of my life, probably like 20-something years from birth. I was a Christian, and I know that Lloyd converted from a religious faith, and I'm not sure about you, Kenneth.
I was an evangelical Christian for the majority of my life.
Nice. Okay, so I mean, my perspective was that there wasn't one particular argument, there wasn't one particular fact or anything that changed my viewpoint, but that it took time and it took people challenging me, and it also took me taking pause to change my view. But I was just interested, is there anything that you guys think is like a smackdown or a number one thing that particularly changed your viewpoint?
Lloyd, do you have anything that comes to mind?
I think that it's a journey that you have to go on yourself, and everyone is at a different place in their journey. I often get asked, with the work that I do that's kind of focusing on Jehovah's Witnesses, how do you wake up someone from a cult? How do you wake up a Jehovah's Witness to the fact that they're being lied to and exploited? And the simple truth is that if there were a way to do such a thing, if there were like a magic bullet, cults wouldn't exist, would they? Because we would be waking people up left, right, and center, and there would be no basis for cults to flourish because everyone would be leaving, or there wouldn't be enough people staying. So I just think that when it comes to your personal beliefs, there's such a thing as cognitive dissonance, and we all have it, and it's a survival trait. If we were able to just change our minds the moment someone comes along and says, hey, you're wrong, then our sense of self would be so brittle that we wouldn't really have one. We wouldn't have a sense of self to survive for. So cognitive dissonance is in a way crucial. We all have it, and it's a very useful tool for people, for religious communities and religious leaders, because they know that nobody likes to lose cherished beliefs and change their minds. But when you, on your question, I guess I just recoil a little bit when you use the word converting to atheism. I don't use the word converting, I use the word reverting, because converting implies that I was born a believer in God. And obviously I wasn't. I was born as a human being, and from a very early age, I was indoctrinated with a specific set of religious beliefs that differ hugely from other religious beliefs that other children get indoctrinated with. I reverted when I became an atheist to atheism, which is to say, when I was born, I didn't have beliefs. I had beliefs when I was a Jehovah's Witness, and when I woke up to the fact that I was in a cult, I went back to having no beliefs. That's the way I look at it. Was that very profound?
Like, no, that's cool. I was brought up like a Pentecostal type of Christian, Holy Spirit loving God type thing. And initially I was brought up in my family church, and I did have an instance where I was like, well, if this is real for me, or if this is a real thing, I should be able to move to a new church that I choose and I should be able to discover the Holy Spirit and Jesus and those types of things. And so I went along with a friend that I met at school, and I became a member of that church, and I became a youth sort of a youth leader, I suppose. I didn't get any formal training or anything like that, but I went ahead and did that. And it wasn't until a number of years later, where certain questions weren't being answered or anything like that, that I even began to consider the fact that God didn't exist, or that there were other arguments to be had. And it was often the conversation that shows like this, or shows like the Atheist Experience, etc., are too hard on the arguments, or too shut people down and those types of things. But for me, like, there was a time where I was prepared to hear the arguments come forward, and then hear the rebuttals.
That's the
and
thing.
Then think about them, you know.
So yeah, I agree with everything that Lloyd said. As you were speaking, I was thinking about a couple of things that I want to share with you. So one is goals. So the call screen thing, like I said, it says, what is it that converts people to atheism was the question on the table. I want to say very clearly, I don't think it should be anyone's goal to convert anybody to atheism or to revert people to atheism. I don't think convincing people of atheism should be anyone's goal. I think all of us, our goal should be to follow the evidence to where it leads, to be responsible epistemically, in terms of the positions that we take. If that leads to atheism, then cool. If it leads us somewhere else, cool. We should want to believe true things. So it just happens to be the case that the case for theism is pretty weak. So with that in mind, what you're referring to a moment ago, when you talk about that openness, there's a term for that, and I might be messing this up, but I wrote all my notes. I believe it's referred to as doxastic openness. Is this idea that you are open to changing your mind when your beliefs collide with new evidence? Okay. Or if you recognize that you don't have evidence for your beliefs, that you are willing to change your mind. And I think that is the key when it comes to, in my experience, changing people's minds when it comes to what they believe. If people are really just committed to their beliefs and they want to defend those beliefs at all costs, then you're going to have a hard time trying to have a conversation with them about what they believe and why. If people are open to changing their mind, well, now we can just do that thing that I was talking about earlier of just following the evidence where it leads, and hopefully get on the same page. And it's important to recognize, this is the last thing I wrote down. There are stages of change when it comes to what people believe, what people's behaviors are. So oftentimes you run into people who are in what would be referred to as a pre-contemplative stage. They're not open to new stuff. They are not interested in changing their mind. They're not even thinking about it. They've got the thing that they believe, and that's it. That's enough for them. So I think that the entire project often revolves around just budging people off of that pre-contemplative stage into a state of doxastic openness, and then just having an open and honest conversation about the evidence.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with that, because there were times when I was a believer that people challenged my beliefs, and they presented me with evidence that I wasn't aware of, or I didn't align with what I believed in, and there was not an acknowledgement even at the time. It wasn't until a lot later on, when I was trying to look for those answers, that things happened to change for me. But yeah, I tend to be of that viewpoint that it is a process, and that there are people that are not interested at the particular time that you're talking to them. And conversion it's a loaded word, and it's typically what believers use to define their position, where it's like, I'm going to convert someone to the faith and that sort of thing. So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Well, I hope we were at least a little bit helpful with that. We're going to move on to some other folks. Let's see here. Aaron, is there anything else that we can help you with?
No. I appreciate you both, and I think you're both doing a great job, and I love hearing you both, and thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thanks for calling in.
All right. Cool. Piece of cake. Right, Lloyd?
Yeah, it's just nice to talk these things through, isn't it? It's a really complicated thing, persuading people, whether it's religion or whether it's politics, whether it's tastes in music, whether it's tastes in film. We all have our concrete ideas that we settle on and become important to us and won't be easily dislodged. And religion is a particularly difficult set of beliefs, or can be a difficult set of beliefs to dislodge. So yeah, I personally, the way I say it is, I don't lose any sleep over religious people I failed to convince or failed to persuade. I think that's the difference between, or one of the many differences between, the atheist position and the theist position, is that when you're a theist, you typically crave bringing people to your set of ideas, whereas when you're an atheist, you don't really care. You just want to, you're happy to have conversations, or in some cases happy to have conversations, but you're not necessarily interested in dragging everyone into your set of views.
Well, there's no mandate. We're not called to go evangelize. So it's that's a bonus. Take some pressure off.
Definitely. Yeah.